Hey, everybody. Kyle Means here, live on Facebook once again. What's happening to everybody out there in FB land? Another week, Sunday night special, bringing it to you live from an undisclosed location on the south side of Chicago. This is a man. And yeah, here as always, Kyle Means, editorial director, War Media, WeAreRadio.com, War on Anchor, all that good stuff. And yeah, just doing this sort of a extra special show this week, given that it's a bye week with the Bears, not necessarily uh, doing the same old spiel, you know, recapping their game or whatnot, because they don't have one, and that's kind of fortunate, I would say. I'll get to that in a minute, but yeah, just looking to have on a special guest this week that have Joseph Lewis. As if you don't know who that is, if you're on Twitter, you may know him as Flows Andolini, or you may know him as one half of the podcast 79th and Halas. And man, he's been doing a lot this year, man. Along with 79th and Halas, he's also been covering the Bears game after game and covering them at Soldier Field for the first time. And I want to get him on to speak about that experience covering the Bears, of course, doing that for the first time. And, just sort of, we're talking about the Bears this week, but we're doing it at a different level, a more positive, uplifting level than we probably would if they had to play a game today. Unfortunately, that's been the case for the past month now. 4-game losing streak really has been nothing to talk about, but a lot of down stuff with the Bears. So, to that degree, I'm really enjoyed this bye week. I enjoyed not having to worry about the Bears in a particular way, just enjoying Sunday to myself, watching as much football as I wanted to watch. There were a couple of good games on, and particularly the Packers Colts game was a really good game, and that was it was a pretty good game on now, the Sunday night game. Sort of going back and forth with that and the Survivor Series. They're doing a big salute to Undertaker now, so I gotta check that out. But yeah, from it's like I said, just having a week where the Bears aren't central to your uh, NFL watching experience. That's something that I kind of enjoy every year. Whether they're good or bad. It's like you get to, like I say, you get to watch the game in a different way and enjoy an NFL Sunday in a different way. So, you know, I'm, just getting to this point of the day, towards the end of the day, looking at what happened in the league, is so look and see Joe, see when Joe can join me in a little bit here, but just going to my overall observations on the day. As I'm gonna start with the Green Bay Colts game. I think again that was a very very good game, very well played. Uh, Green Bay got out to a good lead in the game, and the Colts came back and showed their strength. Again, I think they're going to be just a tough team to deal with going forward and going into the playoffs. I think they're a pretty good bet for the playoffs now. Maybe they're the top of the AFC South. Maybe they don't hold. Maybe they hold on to it. Maybe not. And you still got Tennessee in the mix there, and we got to talk about that game with Baltimore a little later. But right now it's 7-3. It's Indianapolis' division. So I think we look at that team. We got to see a bit of them earlier this year. Good defense, pretty stout. Today they weren't as strong as they normally are, but they were going against Aaron Rodgers, and Rodgers did what he had to do. He controlled the game for a lot of it. Green Bay lost control of it towards the end, but that last drive of regulation was just it was classic Rodgers. It was classic Packers. It's one of those things that you absolutely envy as a Bears fan. It's like, you knew, regardless of the fact that Green Bay started that drive deep in their own territory. All they needed was a 3 to tie. You felt you felt as an observer looking at that drive as a starter, you felt pretty assured that they were going to get what they needed to at least extend the game, if not win it. And they proceeded to move up the field just like you've seen a million times with Rodgers. He put the ball where he needed to put it. His receivers got where they needed to get to. And it's just that type of assuredness, that type of steadiness in an unsure situation, in a clutch situation, as it were. That's the type of thing that we just cannot take for granted here in Chicago, because we rarely see that type of play. Even in a non-clutch situation, we rarely see that from our offense. It's something that, again, you just got to tip your hat to Rodgers and Green Bay, because no matter who's running that offense, no matter what personnel they have, receivers, running backs, whatever, tight ends, whoever you give Rodgers out, put Rodgers with on that field, he's going to make them into players who can function well in that type of situation. And they wound up getting the 3 that they needed. They took it to overtime, but unfortunately had a big turnover when they had a chance to, I believe, win it in that drive. Marquez Scam, you got to forget his name, but he got he's got the involved name. He gave the fumble up, and that's the type of thing that the Colts know how to do. They know how to make you turn the ball over. They know how to make plays on that defense, and I believe Buckner recovered the fumble that the receiver made, and they went and made a couple more plays, get themselves in the field goal position, and they got the 3 that they needed, and they ran up out of there. And great win for them. Always nice to see Green Bay lose if you're a Bears fan. They more than just the schadenfreude that's involved with seeing the Packers lose. They're 7-3 now. They don't gain a game on the Bears. The Bears don't lose anything this week because in division, because Minnesota lost as well and Detroit lost as well. So pretty good week all told for the Bears. Especially in regards to the NFC Central, North or whatever. And like I said, all your rivals lose, and you get to come back next week and play the Packers. It's not the most encouraging thing to play the Packers on primetime TV, but you at least have a chance straight up to you control your destiny, as it were. You have a chance to put them down to 7-4 with a loss next week, and the Bears would be 6-4 if they win. So that would be big. Again, it's going to be another big game next week, and they're going to have a chance to keep themselves firmly in the division hunt. So it's a good thing, definitely, to see the Packers take that L. And then as far as the Minnesota and Detroit go, neither one of those teams really acquitted themselves this week. They both looked bad, really bad. Well, not the Vikings, not so much. I guess they competed well with the Cowboys, I would say. But I would say at this point, losing to the Cowboys, unless you're an NFC East team, is not a good look. But The Cowboys showed show a little something today. They got Andy Dalton back, so they're they're scrapping. They see a light at the end of the tunnel for them in the NFC East. Because the tunnel's so short. They got a chance to get out of that division and get to the postseason, even with a losing record. They probably could do that this year. So they played and got themselves that win. The Cowboys did over the Vikings, but like I said, if you're playing the way that the Vikings been playing for the past few weeks, you need to get that win, man. Get that win. Put yourself, and with a winning, I think they would have been 5-4. I mean, let me see what they would have been. 5-5. Yeah, they would have been at 500 with the win. Now they're just 4-6. So they've been eating off of the division recently, beating Detroit, beating Green Bay, beating the Bears. So they're fine in division, but they're nowhere really in regards to the conference, because you're not going to get a wild card in the NFC with a losing record. You gotta get that back up. So we'll see how the Vikings do. I don't think you can expect too much from them going forward if they're going to lose at home to a team like the Cowboys. And the Lions, 20-0 losing to the Panthers, lost to a damn XFL quarterback. Panthers had to use my man Phillip Walker, and shout out to him, man. Like I said, an XFL guy, coming in at 2 interceptions, but still was able to, I guess, make enough plays to, connected well with DJ Moore. I see 7 receptions and 127 yards for him. So he used his best weapon out there on the receiver side. Got the job done, man. Good for him. And but you're Detroit, you get shut out and you lose to an XFL quarterback. Come on, man. So Lions are 4-6 now, and yeah, it looks a lot better than for the Bears, again, in the context of the NFC Central, than it did a week or two ago, because Minnesota and Detroit they had some momentum and they just screwed it up this week. So the Bears, hopefully they're learning the lessons that they need to learn with this off week. Hopefully they're getting healthy in the ways that they need to get healthy, and they're getting their minds right and not, getting away from the negative feelings that they probably have built up throughout the past month. And, they got to face a lot again coming up this coming week, coming up with Green Bay. It's always, that could be a galvanizing thing, having to face Green Bay coming out of the bye. That could be a galvanizing thing. So, let's see how they do. Let's definitely see how they do. They're not written out of anything yet. And like I said, a lot of the NFC is still up for grabs. So just checking in with Joe. He says he's going to be on in a few minutes, so I'll just talk out some more before I get him on. But just like I said, looking at some of the other games this week. Let's go back to the AFC and that the AFC South and the AFC North, that Titans Ravens game, man. Another hard, along with the Packers and Colts, probably the most hard fought game this week. Titans win it in overtime. Derrick Henry gets a big runoff to clinch that one. The Ravens, man, they had to deal with some disrespect that they felt at the beginning of the game. The Titans stomping on their logo in the middle of the field out there in Baltimore. I don't know what's up with the Titans, man. I guess drawing back from their playoff game when they saw them last year. You know, maybe there's a little something there that we didn't know about publicly, you know, but they got a little something. I guess they got a little rivalry they started going. But it led to a hard fought game, a hard hitting game, and you know, Tennessee is 7-3 as well. I know I said the Colts though had the advantage on them, so both those teams are 7-3 in the South, and both are looking like playoff teams. Whereas the Ravens now are third in the AFC North, so you know they're behind Cleveland, who got a win today, and you know, Pittsburgh, who has just been, you know, beating everybody, literally. They're 10-0. So really a tough road to go ahead for with Baltimore. You know, there's a team that has so much expected of them, you know, coming out of last year with Lamar Jackson getting MVP, and you know the offense was humming like it was, defense was top notch, and you know it's just seemed a little bit of crumbling has been going on there in Baltimore. You gotta wonder how that's going to play out for the rest of the year. You know, I don't. You know, Cleveland is improved. Definitely, it seems like they're being ran much better than they were last year. With Stefanski now, the new coach, seems like they got the people that they want out there now. So you know, maybe they'll hold on. I'm not betting on it yet. You know, but because it is Cleveland, but you know, right now they got the advantage. They still haven't beat Baltimore though, so that's key. But you know, we'll you know, Baltimore's got to beat somebody good again. They look at their schedule. 6-4 now. They got the Steelers on Thanksgiving. That's a big challenge right away there. You got the Cowboys after that, you know, beatable, but Cowboys have shown that they can, you know, play up to competition, and they have a reason to play, you know, still going forward because of their weak division. Then the Browns right after that. Some Jaguars give them some leeway, and the Giants and the Bengals to end the season. So they got 3 easy games to end the season, but these next 3 games are murderous, man, and they got to, you know. Well, 2 of the 3 are murderous. Other one is, they're all challenging to say the least. So you got a chance with this team where they could fall under 500 pretty easily in the next 3 weeks, or at least just be hovering at like, you know, if they go 1-2 in the next 2, they're 7-6. So again, that's not going to cut it in the AFC this year. So. You know, Baltimore's got some challenges ahead of them, especially in that division where you have a team that you know is going to be, you know, pretty much the prohibitive number 1 seed in Pittsburgh, and again the Browns, they beat the Eagles today, 22-17. So that's 7-3 again, looking like a playoff team. So it's interesting to see there in the North at the AFC, and you know the game going on now big in the AFC West with KC and Oakland. Let me check on the score as it is. I don't have it on my TV now, but Chiefs are taking the lead 21-17, getting towards the latter part of the third. So you know. Raiders, I like the way the Raiders play, man. I spoke a little bit about them last week. I like the way that they've utilized their running game. Offensively, overall, they got some weapons. You know, they're got a pretty nice defense. They're a pretty good team, and they're making the most of what they got. And you know, I don't know if they're going to be, you know, deadly going into the playoffs or, you know, going through it. But, you know, I think they're a good team to watch. And, you know, maybe as soon as next year, they could really be a dangerous team. They just got to get a couple more pieces involved in, you know, either side of the ball probably, but particularly on defense. But I think on offense, they're pretty much where they need to be right now. Maybe you want a more intimidating quarterback than Carr, but he's a pro and he's a guy who's not messing. He's not messing up. He's not doing things to undercut their efforts on offense. Carr he's handling himself well. And he's got a quarterback. He's got a coach, I should say, who handles quarterbacks well, in Chucky. So, Gruden. So, it's I think this is a nice ceiling for the Raiders over the next year or two. And again, it's kind of tough. You don't want to compare them necessarily to the Bears, but we always had that little tie-in with each other. Going back to the Khalil Mack trade. And, I don't think the trade has much to do with, it has something to do with what we've seen since, because you look at one side, the Raiders having extra draft picks than the Bears had, because the Bears had to give up picks to get Khalil. And, the Bears have been handcuffed in some ways, but they've also haven't come through in all the ways that they needed with the picks that they've had. So who wants to say that they would have done any better with those other picks without having, and on top of that, not having Khalil Mack. But the Raiders, they made that deal, moved past it. They were seen as a laughing stock for a minute. People were like, how did you give up Khalil Mack? But they had a vision for themselves. Gruden had a vision for their team. And he's working into it now. And they're a competitive team out there in the AFC West. So give it up for them. They, to be able to beat Kansas City and compete with them for a second time, they may beat them again tonight. They beat them again 2 times. That's a big message to send to the rest of the NFL. You look at how the Bears played against them last December. There was no chance that they were going to win that game. And the Raiders this year, like I say, having 2 competitive games against those Chiefs, you gotta give it up for them. But okay, we got Joe coming in, flows, and let me add him.
You
right, my good man, what's going on, bro?
Man. This was finishing a paper for class.
Okay. But yeah, man, thanks for joining me, man. I appreciate it.
Oh man, no problem, not at all.
Yeah, man. I said earlier before you came on, man. Just explaining why I got you on. Being that this a bye week and everything is a bit easier for you to come on because you are covering the team now. But I just wanted to let people in on your process of how you got to this position, and what's it meant for you. Being a fan and everything at first, and just walking the path that you've walked and getting to this spot. I remember seeing some of your videos at the beginning of the year, and I saw how much it meant to you to be at Soldier Field and on a game day and doing what you were doing. It was pretty cool, man. And, I'm gonna get to some other stuff in regarding representation and stuff in a minute, but. Just straight up, first off, what's it been like for you? Let me put everything in context first. Let me say, Joe is covering the Bears for the Bigs. It's our homies. This the Bigs, Terrence and Eugene. They put you on to this position. How did that? We know that the Bigs have had credentials for the Bears for a while. But how did you get in this position with them, where they were willing to give you those credentials to allow you to cover the games?
Man, I've known Terrence and Gino for about maybe 8 years now. And me and my brother Scott, who I've started 79th and Halas and then Barber's Chair Network with, and Audition Pierce, our homie.
Shout out.
We wanted to cover the games and get a take on the Bears for some black folks from the south side of Chicago. And the only people we knew were Terrence and Gino, and we knew them through our homie Larry, who Larry seems to know everyone. And we were just starting up our podcast. And because, of course, we didn't have credentials. I couldn't talk to Nagy or who was that at the time? Was it John Fox?
John Fox, yeah.
At the time, I didn't have a way to talk to them. So I said, let's just talk about it like fans. And I would watch all the Bears games. I would be there for mini camp, where fans were allowed. And I would just report basically on the fans' perspective. And they got in touch with us and they liked what we were doing. So they always mentored us. They said, okay, try to do this when you're talking about your podcast. Try to, make sure you're saying the Bears is them, but, we're us as our fans. And so they just showed us the ropes and they helped me get on TV. They put opportunity in front of us because they just wanted to, help representation as Black folks. And then also to give people who are willing an opportunity. So I was covering just from a straight up fans perspective, and they reached to me, I want to say early in the year about, hey man, we got so much to cover. I mean, they're credentialed by every Chicago team, literally every single one, the White Sox, the Cubs, the Blackhawks, the Bulls, and the Bears, and they have just too much on their plate. And so they know my first love is football, and they know I love the Bears more than any other team. And Scott's in LA, so Scott can't, come to Chicago and cover them. So they said, man, do you want to cover them for us? And I was like, what? You don't even have to ask me. You just said, hey, we got this. I knew you wanted. I was like, absolutely. I'm absolutely down. And so from then, they've just been teaching me how to do what, basically be a journalist, be a young journalist. And so it was just them looking out for what I will say, someone under them, someone who is, I'm nowhere near the ladder that they are. And I probably never will be because they've been doing this for 5 years. And I mean, everyone knows who they are. When I would go up into the Bears, they said, oh, yeah, Terrence. Last week, they thought Terrence was going to be there. And so they had a credential with his name on it. And that just shows you how much work they've put in. And so they just want to help everybody else out. And so they were just looking out for me. And I feel super lucky. I'll say that.
Yeah, that's what's up, man. And, I've been doing those brothers about the same amount of time, probably about 4, 5 or 6 years now. And, they're all, that's the mission. That's part of the mission that they're all about. I've had talks with them along those lines. And, we've shared stories about, as far as with We Are Regal Radio, we've been able to get on a couple of occasions down to camp down in Bourbonnais.
Yeah.
But, we haven't been able to get to games. And so we hit that same wall that y'all did with Barber's Chair and with 79th before, where, if you're an independent entity and, you don't want to put race into it necessarily, but it doesn't help that, it doesn't help that you're a young Black dudes, trying to get on somewhere too. But, you're in that position, it's only so far that they're going to give you so much access. And two, like, coaches have, they're sort of like, they're sort of bullies in that way, or like, they can dictate how much access they give to media. And I know Fox was toward the end of his reign, he got particularly, reclusive about that. And, Nagy hasn't been much better. So it's been kind of rough over the past couple of years, even getting to camp and stuff. And now that they have camp at Halas Hall, it's really been restrictive. So, I to see, the way that you've been able to move, and it was real smart of y'all to get on with the bigs, man, to connect with the bigs in that way and to use them as mentors. I really admire that you guys been able to connect that way, and it's been great to see that like I said, for you to be a fan at one point and now be covering the team, it's really inspiring. And you sort of revealed it in what you just said, but I was going to ask, was this the first time that you ever engaged in journalism in this way? So I'm guessing
since college, yeah.
Since college, college you did?
I did a little bit when I was at Roosevelt because my college career is unique. I have 2 degrees that I'm not going to use at all. 2 experiences in college that I'm not going to use at all: criminal justice, and then I use film and video. But like professionally, like as a full career, I didn't use either one. I experienced a little bit of journalism as well. But we were doing it all just as startups, just as straight from the bottom. And so I would watch how I've seen when Gino got to talk to Derrick Rose. Me and my brother watched it. We watched the type of questions that they asked. They weren't yes or no questions. They were open-ended questions. So we just followed and learned. And then we didn't know what channels to hit. Like, okay, how do we get credentials? We've been looking to get credentials for years, but we had no clue how. And we know
to get to those people in those organizations. It's hard to get to them.
And we know people who have who are whites, who I know got it a lot easier than we did. And I mean, it's still tough for Terrence and Eugene. They put Terrence and Eugene through a lot of hassle to get to the area that they are. I think they said like the Bulls are easier, or one of the easier ones, or was it the White Sox or Cubs? One of them. But the Bears are one of the harder ones. Like in the press box, I see 2 black faces, including my own, and that's about it. So I know they make it harder than it should be.
Yeah, and to that degree, I see you. You know, I see you, man, on those. Like I watch the Fox post game shows, and the good thing about Fox is that they'll show, with this year doing the Zoom conferences and stuff, they actually show unedited the conferences. So they'll show, the guy from the Bears passing off to each of the reporters when he had the questions and stuff, and you get to see the reporters. You'll see Deion Miller, you see Jason Miser, you see the guy from the Tribune, and all these places. And then you pop up, and I'm like, oh, that's Joe, okay,
yeah,
and he'll say Joseph Lewis, like, okay, that's what's up. So I mean, you're like the only black face that we see in that setting. So it's significant that you're there, for one. And just what for you to have you had any moments now where people see like, oh, I saw you on TV, or I saw you. Have you had the moments yet?
I've had a few friends on Facebook. One I think texted me a link to YouTube and said, "Is this your voice?" I was like, "Yeah, that's what." He's like, I can tell your voice anyway. I knew that was your voice. He knew I was doing the podcast. He's like, "Yeah, I knew that was you." I was like, "Yeah, that was me." I felt weird to say that. It felt very weird, but yeah, it's cool. I prefer when they don't show me, but there's a few times where I've looked up and somebody on Twitter was like, "Hey man, it showed you." I said, "Wow, I need to clean my room or something," because I'll be sitting here at my house and be like, "My room looks terrible. I wish I fixed up my office, but it looks like terrible too." So I'm just sitting in my own individual room. But yeah, so it's unique for sure.
Yeah, that's how it is, but you gotta be more prepared to be seen now.
Yeah,
it's not just you talking on the mic and podcast when
I started when I had like a baby blue do-rag on. I said, "Oh Lord, let me take this off. I don't want them to see I got a do-rag. I ain't gonna never get back on here."
Right. Yeah, how's it been? In person, mixing it up with some of. Because I remember a couple of years ago talking to Tony Gill with his first year with the Bulls, and he was like stricken. He was quite struck with how it was to interact with some of these people who he'd read for a long time or seen on TV and stuff, and it took some adjusting to in being able to be in the mix with those people on a day in and day out basis. How's that been for you in regards to the being now seen as a legit member of the Bears media?
It was weird because there are people like Jason Leisure, Chris Emma, JJ Stankovitz, who I've followed on Twitter for 10 years now. I mean, they're like local celebrities to me. And so I say, ooh, let me, I would, during free agency or during the draft, I would put notifications on for all of their tweets just so I could say, okay, who the Bears getting, who, so I can get ahead of the curve and everything. And then when I sit down and I see them, I'm a little starstruck. Like I'm not going to act like I'm not. I go there and said, oh man, that's Chris Emma. I just saw his tweets. And so it feels like in a real sense that I'm in a room with a bunch of legends. I mean, some of these dudes have been there who are definitely legends who have been doing it for a long time. But in another sense, I have to act like I belong there. The one of the, I think the toughest things about, and this is just for the few months I've been in, I know it's a lot tough for those who have been doing it for decades, is I have to act like I belong there. The first day in there, I had to be bewildered look like, Lord have mercy, how did I get here? And since then, I just walk in because I do belong, because I am there, because I am credentialed. And so I have to make sure I put on that game face, because that's what they do. They walk in, they don't say a word. They be already getting it going. Even there are like assigned seats. I've never seen them even look at assigned seats. People take seats and keep going. And because before I'd walk in and say, okay, I'm at seat 61, and I'm like, seat 61 is taken. Let me try this seat. And so now I just roll with the punches and try my best in these 5 games I've done to just get there and and go to work. But it's been, most of them are nice, really. It's harder to talk, through a mask, and being all of us are at least 10 feet away from each other. And so like the desks are really, or the actual area you're sitting is so separated, it's hard to maintain a conversation. But typically outside after it's over, people will chat up and they're willing to help. And so the people I've met have been super fun. It's still weird to interact with them because I'm so used to looking at the Tribune on the internet, or looking at the Sun-Times, and reading their articles, and to be next to them takes a little bit to get used to, for sure.
Yeah, I bet. Because when you think of most of those people, they came up in a lot of ways probably covering high schools and covering smaller scale sports and stuff. And then they got to this point where they're pros, and they may have known a lot of the reporters who they're around now for a long time as well. And whereas you just sort of got dropped into this scene, and you're just making your way as you go along. So it's definitely like an initiation factor of something where you gotta learn how to swim right away and look natural. It's not like you don't want to be, like say, you don't want to bring too much attention to yourself when you don't have to. And
true.
It's interesting. Like and you mentioned too, like having the experience of reading them and seeing them on Twitter, and knowing, I've only known you for the most part through Twitter as well, through knowing you as Flows Andolini and 79 for Halas and stuff, and you guys have done a great job building a following for yourself, and online. And I just was wondering, was there any sort of thought given to the fact that you were going to probably have to, when you first was starting, like, I'm going to have to use my regular name. I have to use my Christian name on this. I can't be Flows in the booth. I can't be Flows in the the press area and stuff, and I can't be Flows, and I can't introduce myself like that to the players and stuff. Yeah. And also, does that take some sort of mental, restructuring or just transitioning in that way? Because again, like it's sort of the difference between you being a fan and being a professional journalist.
True. It's funny because it wasn't until through Terrence and Eugene that we met Jared Payton. And Jared Payton, we were on him and Sean Davis. They had a podcast or a radio show actually a few years back. And the first time
on State Street?
Yeah.
The
first time he introduced us, it was Scott and Joe Lewis. And I said, oh, Lord. Scott is known as Scott. It's always been that way for him. His Twitter name was not complicated beforehand. But mine was based off a childhood nickname and The Godfather of the movie. I said, man, I haven't been known as Joseph on Twitter ever. And then I said, okay, if I really want to pursue it the way I want to pursue it, I have to be professional. Have my name is Joseph. And so I was like, yeah, hey, my name is Joe. It felt weird because I was so ready to say it's Flows, because I'm in a podcast. We're professional, but we're still fans, and we still talk like, man, I hate this aspect of the Bears. I hate that I have to deal with this. And so to I guess that's the one area that I had a little bit of time to get adjusted to being known as that, being known as my actual Christian name. But it did take a little bit of time to getting used to going from watching Bears games as a fan to watching it more objectively. Like one of the things I learned, and which Terrence told me immediately, he said, "Don't make any noise, do not cheer at all during it." I was like, okay, that's a little tough for sure. Because I watched the first game that I saw. Who were the Bears playing? I can't remember the Bears' first home game this year.
Was the Giants? Wasn't the Giants week 2?
Should be the Giants. The first time I watched them, there was a third down play that was running Cordero Patterson. I think it was a jet sweep. I was so angry. I was like, not this again. And the funny thing is, I saw so many other journalists like biting their lip because they were just as angry. And I realized a good chunk of them, not all of them, because there's some people like Stacey Dales, who's national, who covers so much. There's a good chunk of them who are Bears fans at heart, like everybody else. But they have to maintain that composure too.
So many of us are from Chicago that work in these outlets. Yeah,
and I've seen a few of them, come from other states, so it's easier for them to work. Like I know, like someone like Nick Friedel, he covered the Bulls, now he covers the Warriors. So I'm sure it's easy for him to be able to say, "Oh man, the Warriors didn't get it done in this area, but it's they'll have this other chance." For me, I'm straight up Bears born and raised, so it's a little bit hard. It was harder to detach myself at first. But then now I've gotten used to saying, well, Bears didn't get it done. And it's helped me relieve my stress as a fan to say, well, I have to look at it from a more objective lens and not be so emotional about it. And then there are certain times when everybody in the press box will be excited. There was a whose touchdown was it? Oh, I forgot who it was. I want to say it was one of Nick Foles' first or second start at home, and he threw an absolute dime. And all I heard was, ooh, from everyone in the press box. I was like, people are still excited because they're still fans. It's just you have to maintain it. So it was a little bit of a learning curve. And I'm still on a learning curve because these are people who have done it much longer. But it is like walking before you crawl. But one thing for sure is this is fun. Isn't even the word to describe it. It's absolute fun to cover the only team that I truly care the most about. Like the Bulls' success, I'm happy. I'm happy with the draft pick. I don't know who necessarily he is, but I'm like, hey, that's cool. With the Bears, I know everything about the Bears because I followed them as a fan. It doesn't get much better than that.
Yeah, like you say, you're only 5 games in because you haven't even done any road games. You just done the home games. So it's like, you got a lot ahead of you when it comes to this stuff. It's great, man. I know next week you're gonna, they got the Sunday night game with the Packers. That's probably going to be the most intense game that you covered. Yeah, but to that degree, like it's funny that you say Terrence told you to watch cheering in the press box. That it's funny because you're just as likely to want to boo than cheer, with the Bears. It's like, but you can't show that emotion either. It's like you just gotta be quite understated or just even keel with that type of stuff. But getting into being at the games and interacting with you interacted with the media who you said you feel starstruck with at times. I'm guessing you have to feel the same way with the players. How has that been interacting one-on-one or just directly with players like people who I'm sure you admire very much as well as anybody involved in this?
And I think the
coaches.
Yeah. I think the first thing I had to realize was I can't give them softball questions because I like the team. The real biggest thing that I had to learn to adjust is to be not necessarily just a hard critic, but a fair critic of them. Because the first thing I want to say is, man, I love you all. I'm Joe. I'm born and raised on the South Side. I've watched you all my life. Like, I remember when the Bears drafted you. Like, I want to say that, but then I have to think, what would I do if I was watching the game at home? I'd be pissed off, and I'd say they run a terrible play on third down. So then let's take that emotion. Let's form an actual good question from it. And so rather than saying, why in the world would you all run a jet sweep? My first question is, on third down, it's 3rd and 1. You have an opportunity to go up the A-gap. or a nice dive play. What came through your mind when you ran a jet sweep? I had to learn that because my first week I was just saying, why did you run that on third down? And I had to learn to say, let me make sure that I'm respecting them in their profession because they do this and they risk their life on the field. And let me actually respect their time and not ask them a softball question and formulate it how a professional would formulate it. So making sure that I don't go easy on them because every fan just wants to know why a team makes this move or why a team doesn't make this move or why a coach makes this move and why a player doesn't make that move. And I think one of the best things about fans is I think fans have even more questions than the average journalist would because hardcore fans watch them every single time and they're not obligated to, they just want to. And so I try to take that same passion that I have for them and be fair but also firm.
Mm-hmm. And this, I think, something that we've learned in recent years, with the more democratization of media, especially sports media and the blog, taking what came naturally with the blogs and sort of refining it to to use with more established media and stuff. There's a way that you can combine the voice of a fan with the knowledge and expertise and just the steadfastness of a professional, I should say, and making that into coverage that really fits and that's really effective in a way, and not just cheerleading.
Yeah. Because,
like you say, fans can be among the most knowledgeable people. It's just you just have that you just are you're just not objective in the way that a reporter would be, who is trained and may come from a different area than the team. They may not have grew up rooting for the team that they cover, but it doesn't shut out the fans' perspective just because they're not objective, because they're more subjective. They just need in the position that you're in, as you like I say, you're attached to the fans in a way. It's sort of like you're an arm or a leg of the fans that you're representing them, and because we all can't be there. You're the one representing us, and there's something meaningful behind that.
Yeah. No, I absolutely feel that. When it comes to being in the room with everyone else who I would consider professionals, I feel like I'm nobody. And it's not to feel low self-esteem or anything. I feel it's a privilege because I feel like I can. Everyone who asks Joe, you better ask him this week. Joe asked him this question. I obviously only have a limited amount of time, and because I haven't been on the beat for years, my questions come here and there. And so when I do get a chance to ask them a question, I try to make sure it's a question that me as a fan, but also every other fan would ask. Because one of the biggest questions, going back to I don't know why the jet sweep is on my mind, was Cordero Patterson. What's Cordero Patterson's role in the offense? And that's a question everybody's been asking. He's one of the greatest returners of all time. How will the Bears use him effective? So I take that question that fans have wondered, and how me as a fan I've been wondering, use the position that was given to me, and then ask away. Because I know when it comes to asking some of the bigger questions, Matt Nagy, are you gonna give a play calling before this week? Obviously, I probably won't get to ask those questions. That's reserved for those who are truly professionals and truly have been doing this for a long time. But I do get a chance to ask a question that is on the minds of at least the people that I know. So it's it feels good to be able to do that. But I do think that it's unfortunate that I'm the only person there, especially the only black person there, because it doesn't feel right when I walk into Soldier Field and the only black people I see are the ones working security. When every other face I see up there is a white face. And it's not that they're not qualified at all, but I know there are people who worked 10 times harder and more knowledgeable than me by far, who should have seats every single where and should be just taken even more seriously, way more seriously than I am. So I really wish there was a lot more. And it's not because of a lack of black journalists. There are hundreds upon thousands of them. But I really wish the door was a lot bigger for every single person to be there. On top of that, it would be way more comfortable at Soldier Field for sure.
Yeah. And going back to you ingratiating yourself with the players, you know, you saying that at first, like you wanted to, you know, let them know how much you messed with them, and you know, like I think with the players from their point of view, them just seeing you as a brother, young brother, it means something for them to see you just on that level, and on top of that, knowing that you want to be you're putting in the effort to be respectful and professional, that means something too. Because if you were up in there just like, you know, like you just trying to kick it or whatever, they probably wouldn't maintain respect for you. But I think, you know, approaching it the way that you seem to be approaching it, and you know, knowing that it's a privilege for you to be there and everything, I think that's going to really endear you to the Bears and to their staff going forward, because that's all they want. They want someone who's respectful and who, you know, who just does the job right, and you know, is not there like they're trying to take advantage of something.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with that. You know, and I appreciate it, more importantly, because I take it as if I did not get credentialed for the rest of forever. I'm glad to have had 5 games. This was the greatest 5-game run of my life, and I will have never experienced it again. And I'm happy with that. So every single game where I get an email and say, "Here's your credentials for this week," or "Here's your parking pass," I'm like, that's a blessing. That's dope. So I take it one game at a time. Yeah, it is. It is fantastic. And I know for sure that I don't know if I want to go to a Bears game as a fan after this. I feel like I've taken so much abuse as a fan. I've taken so much abuse after watching them. I would love to not have to experience the heartbreak as a fan anymore. I forgot which. I think it was the Colts that the Bears played at home, and I watched and said, oh, "Not again." And I said it to myself, and there was a member of the national media who I know was a Bears fan, because every time a Bears play went wrong, I saw it in his face, the anger. And he looks so distressed, and I'm like, I know it. He has to be a Bears fan. And then I asked him afterwards. I was like, "Did you grow up in Chicago?" He said he grew up in Chicago. I was like, I knew it. I know when I see a Bears fan, that's the pain of watching them for decades and knowing that nothing's changed. And it was hilarious to work around him. So I should have said, yeah, man, it's a blessing, and it goes to show how I think people should act the way Terrence and Gino have. Terrence and Gino are professionals that have been doing this for quite a long time. And rather than, you know, keep the spot to themselves, all they did was open doors. You know, all they did was say, "Hey, can you do this for me? Could you fill out this for me?" They were supposed to go on CLTV one day. And they said, "Joe, can you fill in for us?" I was like, "What? Yes, absolutely." And if I was ever in their position, which takes dedication years, I would want to do the same thing, because opening the door and not giving it to anybody and not allowing anybody else to come in, that's weak.
I'm glad you feel that way, man. There's, like you said, there's no lack of us here in Chicago who have been doing this type of work, and you know, I feel good when you know people like Ken and D have been able to go on CLTV and go on The Score, and you know, and you know, people like Josh Hicks and people like that, and Sidney Brown have been on CLTV as well, representing us. You know, we try to, like, we had Scott on D and Davis back when we were doing it on State Street. So we always mess with y'all too from an early point. And like we spoke with this with Gene and Terrence, like we all we got. That's you know they say that a lot. You know, all we got. We gotta rep each other. We gotta hold each other up, because nobody else is giving us. They're not giving us anything. And they struggle to give what they get us that we earn. You know what I mean? They struggle to let us have that. So we just got to keep holding each other up and shine a light on what we all do, because we all have a reason for doing this stuff. And it's not just to, you know, it's because we have a passion, and we want to show an example for other people who come from where we come from. You know, because. I know there's so many brothers and sisters out there who love sports, and you know they love to talk it all day and follow it, but they don't like you once in that position where you didn't know how to do it professionally. You didn't know what avenues to take, what people to talk to. to get yourself on. So that shouldn't be the case. It should be more of an open path for people, of all backgrounds and all educational backgrounds and whatever money, how much money you make, whatever. You shouldn't have to spend $100,000 to go to Northwestern and become graduate with honors from the school up there, the journalism school up there, in order to get a good job in sports journalism. You should be able to have different paths than that.
Absolutely.
But you want to say something?
No, I was agreeing wholeheartedly. I think that when one black person gets a door open, I feel like the next thing we should do is reach our arm out and keep the door open. That's the best thing we can do.
Yeah. So it's great to see you doing what you're doing, man. I look forward to seeing more what you doing, and on 79th and Halas, as well as with the bigs, and what I was wondering too, like, how has the work that you've been doing, the game day work you've been doing, how have you been incorporating it with your other work, your podcasting and everything like that? How has it affected you as a podcaster and everything, or just sharing stuff online and stuff like that on Twitter or whatever?
I think the biggest thing is maybe not as emotional. That's the biggest factor. Being a Bears fan, as we all know, it can zap a lot out of you, or it can give you a lot, in being a fan. Like, for instance, when the Bears win, my week is set. And it's great. When the Bears lose, I start the week off terribly. But then I've learned as a professional that it's sports. I love it to death, but it should not affect it to the point that I'm starting off my week like, here we go, Bears lost, I have to live with it. In high school, it was understandable. In high school, we had I went to Curie, and we had 2 people who were Packers fans. I had almost every class with them. And so when the Bears would lose, it's like 2008, 2007, oh man, they piled it on. And so my week was terrible, but I was in high school, so you expect that. But now it's allowed me to interact and to also give fans a sense of relief. Like, the first thing that we think as fans, if something going wrong, oh, this person doesn't care about the job. No, these people spend day in and day out. Even if you disagree with Matt Nagy or you disagree with any player, Khalil Mack, for instance. Khalil Mack had a bit of a down year last year, and he's exploding again this year. It's not for a lack of dedication. The fact that they're better than me. If I was a player, I just did 60 minutes of action that's taxing on my body, I wouldn't speak to anybody. I'd go home and relax. I'd go home and sit in the bath. But the fact that they put in that work and then talk to people, like after the loss, last week, Charles Leno talked to the media, and everybody asked, were you told to do this? And he saw, no, I did it because I wanted to. I was like, if that was me, I wouldn't talk to anybody. I'd be so angry. And I said, these are true professionals. And so it's allowed me to respect their craft even more. And if I have a criticism, it makes me sit back and think, is this a fair criticism? Or is this just me being an angry Bears fan? And so I've tried to let people who are watching and fans know, because Bears fans can be irrational, to say, let's remember that this is their work. And sometimes people look at athletes as not human, especially black athletes. But I said, man, these dudes work in and day out. It's like people telling LeBron, shut up and dribble. Basketball is his life. And he does it to entertain everyone else. And we have to respect their craft and respect that they're humans just like we are. And these dudes have degrees that a good number of people do not have. And so it's just allowed me to respect their craft 100%. And when I'm getting angry, I have to realize, if I failed at my job, why shouldn't they be allowed to fail at their job too? So that's the one thing, the biggest thing. And now I watch games with not as much emotion. I can never say I watch a game and be happy if they lose, but I can watch a game and say, well, they didn't get it done, and I can move on forward.
Yeah, exactly. It's the sort of thing that you get it, because I went to J school and I work for newspapers and stuff. So you get that processed out of you, that whole that emotional stuff, and for me, it's a big difference watching the Bears as a grown man than it was as a high schooler and stuff too. But you still have that the roots of what that fandom is, because the Bears mean something more here in Chicago. to us Chicagoans. It means something more than most teams mean to their fan bases. So you can never get rid of that completely, but you have that perspective once you go in locker rooms and you go face to face with players and you learn more about who they are outside when they take those helmets off and everything. Yeah. And it's a valuable perspective to have. And it at the least it makes you less disrespectful online.
Yeah. I know my tweets back in like 2011 were probably reckless. And I hope no one ever sees them, but I know I would get irrationally angry. But now I just say, man, 60 minutes and doing this year in and year out. I played 3 years of high school football. My body is ruined because of that. Imagine me doing this high school, then through 3 years of college, and then being like a 10-year NFL professional. I said I couldn't imagine what any of that is. So I have to respect that craft because that level of dedication is beyond what I even can attempt to realize what it is. So yeah, it's
a great sacrifice. Yeah.
It's super sacrifice. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. But before we wrap up though, just, get your thoughts overall on the team. And, like I said, we're in this bye week. Mm-hmm. They've had a rough go of it. This is one of those times where you got to put those objective goggles on and be like, because it's the past 4 weeks have been tough. And it's you realize that, especially in the way that it seems like they're doing the same things over and over. And it's like, you want to be supportive. You want to be, you want to have that objective look to it. But it's like, man, why can't they turn this around? So, in your opinion, what do you think about this recent stretch? And, what do you think are the possibilities for them to get beyond it once they pick up play next week with the Packers?
The first thing that I thought about, and I'm glad you said you got to put on those objective lenses, because the first thing that came to mind is, man, I'm one of the few fans who really likes Mitch Trubisky. Like, I want him to succeed because I know what it's like to be in a position and be an underdog or not expected to do as well. And so the first thing I said is, yeah, Mitch about to come and he's about to kill it. And then I think, okay, let me be reasonable for a second. Mitch has struggled. The likelihood that he turns the season around, highly unlikely. But the only thing the Bears have going for them is that defense is just nasty. Khalil Mack has shown up 110%, and I think he's just playing as well as he did his first year. Eddie Jackson, I feel like he's owed 8 interceptions on the year because he has been there every single time. Jalen Johnson, even though they try to pick on him, he's one of the best, if not the best, rookie DB right now. Kyle Fuller's an all-pro. Akeem Hicks, even though he's dealing with an injury, he's still one of the best defensive tackles. Bilal Nichols, coming from backing up Eddie Goldman, who's now in that starting position, has held it down. And the Bears have had to work with the patchwork on offense. And offensive line actually was not that bad last week. The only issue is it's the quarterback. Nick Foles can either be Joe Montana one Sunday or he can be Trent Dilfer the next Sunday. And he goes
from drive to drive, he could be there.
Exactly. One drive, I could say, goodness gracious. I see why he won Super Bowl MVP. That Atlanta game, that comeback, I was like, wow. I have rarely seen that from a Bears quarterback. And then you look last week and say, what? How did he allow that to happen? And so now that, Matt Nagy has said all options are on the table of getting Mitch Trubisky and Nick Foles healthy, I don't think the prospects are high at the moment. I think I betted they would win 8 games. I struggle to see them win 7 games simply because everything starts with the quarterback. The offensive line is banged up, and I do not expect them to be effective. No matter how good I think David Montgomery can be and him coming back from concussion protocol, I find it hard for them to be effective. They did an okay job in the first half, even with Cordell Patterson, who is not a trained running back, was not that bad. But the second half, the woes did kind of hurt them. But I do give them credit for still finding chemistry in the few reps that they have. But this comes down with Nick Foles and Mitch Trubisky. Mitch Trubisky has a way better legs. And some of the sacks that Nick Foles took, maybe Mitch doesn't take them. Maybe he takes off. But then the other point is Mitch hasn't ran like that since his rookie year or his second year on his Matt Nagy's rookie year. Matt Nagy's rookie year, he ran any chance that he had a lane open. And I wish he did that. If he was his second year, I'd feel a lot more confident. But because he's not, he's dealing with a tough shoulder. I think the Bears may get to 7-9 or 8-8. There is a chance, of course, with the Packers losing today for them and the Vikings losing today for the Bears to gain some ground. But unless there is a miracle at the quarterback position, it's football hell, sub 500, but not that bad that the draft pick is great. If the Bears didn't win another game, I'd be angry, but I'd say that draft pick is going to be pretty high for them. But if they made the playoffs, I'd be happy that they did that with what they have. That would speak to the testament of their core players. So my only hope is they pick either or. Either they just outright be terrible or they make a good playoff run. If they're in the middle, then I don't know what they can do because I know they have to look for a quarterback again. And middle of the yard just is not going to cut it. Even though this year has a lot of QBs, you need to be top 10 if you want to land one of them. So that's why I think this year. I think 7 and 9 probably is what I can expect from them. However, Packers, for some reason, I think they win. I do not know why, but I feel like coming off the bye week,
the Bears win this next one.
I know it seems highly unlikely, but
well, look, the Packers they're good, but they don't put together whole games like we saw today.
They never do.
Yeah, they should have won this game going away today, but they let the Colts back in. So it's
And when I watched them, I said, this is not what I'm used to seeing from the Packers, who typically put away teams and call it a day. Losing in the playoffs, they probably typically do, but these type of games they've won. And so I said, this is a chink in the armor. This is a good chance for the Bears to get some divisional ground because I think they're 1-1 in the division. You become 2-1, you said a lot better than you were looking, and that would make them 6-5. So I feel like if Mitch is there, it gives him a better chance to be mobile, and then David Montgomery can go back to carrying the load, which he probably hasn't done since last year. And if that happens, then I can see them winning. Division games are always stupid. One game, a team can look fantastic, and then the next game they can look terrible. But it seems at least in the NFC North, every team plays each other hard. And so I think it's a good chance for the Bears. I still don't have high hopes for the season, but I think this is a statement game. First of all, it's must win. You lose this, you can probably kiss the season goodbye. So, and I think they think they know that's riding.
Yeah. Before the Minnesota game, my thinking was that they needed to go at least 4-1 because they got these 5. They had 5 divisional games left. I was thinking they need to go 4-1. So they already lost the Minnesota game, and like you say, they can't lose this game coming up, or else they really their hopes really torpedoed in because you can't build yourself off with any wins elsewhere in the NFC. The only other games are against the AFC South, so those games not going to figure much into what's the playoff standings or tiebreakers and stuff. So they got to win these division games and. If they want to have any chance, but like you said, I know a lot of fans. I've talked to a couple in particular. The Barnes being like he wants them to lose everything else and be as high as they can in their draft. I know what you're saying too about being in the top 10 for getting the best quarterbacks. Unfortunately, 2017 proved that even being in the top 10. May not help depending on who you pick them. But I do think that the Bears could be in the middle of that first round and maybe get guy that they maybe they don't get the first guy that they want, but they could get a solid second option. But they got to get a quarterback. They got to get a quarterback. Yeah. They got to tend to that. They got to tend to that offensive line. Man, I've been saying. They've been bargain shopping with that offensive line, and just put them in a bad position where they have no depth, no real outstanding talent on that line. They have a couple of promising guys, but they don't have any guys. You look at lines like, Indianapolis line, the 2 teams we see in playing now, the Chiefs and the Raiders. They both got great lines, and they run the ball. Everybody who is really doing it in the league right now, they run the ball well. And for the Bears to not run the ball well, it goes against the tradition, and it's not fitting with what winning football is in the NFL nowadays, man. And like you said, we got a guy in Montgomery who could run. Yeah, but you got to give him protection. You got to give the quarterbacks protection. So it's so much ahead that we have to look forward to, and that's a little bit disheartening because the thought was that we could win this year. We could have won in 18. Yeah. but and there's a feeling that with each year passing, that you're wasting another year of this defense.
Yeah.
And it's been a like you say, it's been a great. We really got to big up this defense for the effort they made this year, because they didn't have to make this effort like they made. They really put their all into supporting the team this year, but they just haven't got enough from the other phases of the team that they should. So, and that's why the team has been struggling. But we'll see how it goes. Though there's still an opportunity, and there's still a lot of interesting stuff to go to think about and analyze with this team. It's the reason why I do these these streams and stuff every week. And I'm glad that we got another guy like you out there representing us in every facet. Fans, black folks, Southsiders.
Yeah.
I'm glad you out there, man, and I'm proud of you and proud of you guys over there at Barber's Chair, and the bigs. It's always love with them. So support these guys, support what they're doing, and just feel free to plug whatever you want to plug. And let people know how to get with you.
You can follow me at Flows Andolini on Twitter. Follow my brother at Barb Chair Scott. You can follow our company, the Barber's Chair Network, on Barber's Chair Net, Barb Chair Net on Twitter. I believe I got that right. Barber's Chair Net on Twitter. 79th and Halas is our podcast. That is our Bears podcast. You can follow that on Twitter at 79th and Halas. You can follow the Bigs at It's the Bigs on Twitter. And shout out for Terrence and Gino for putting me on. Shout out for you to put me on this show, opening the door for me to get on this show and talk. So, I'm thankful for every opportunity that anyone lets me talk about the Bears, because I could talk about them for hours. So I'm thankful for you allowing me on here for sure.
It's my pleasure, man. We definitely got to do this again soon,
Absolutely.
man. Towards the end of the season, man. So I'll keep up with you, man. And I say again, thanks to you for coming on, and then good luck with the rest of this first season. Hopefully, it's not your last.
Hey, man, who knows? But I'm thankful for the time, for sure.
For sure, man. All right, man. Enjoy the rest of your evening, man. And we'll see you next week out there at Soldier Field.
All right, bro. Appreciate it.
All right, man. Have a good one. Yeah, Joseph Lewis, Flows Andolini. Great talking to him, man. It's the first time I really sat down with him and talked on a scale like this. So I really appreciate him again coming on, and just really impressed with the way that he's approached this rare opportunity, and he's really giving it his all, man. Trying to do the best that he can, and he's definitely representing for a lot of people who could be there and probably should be there, but can't, haven't been given the opportunity. So it's a blessing for him, and I feel real good that he's been able to take that and abide by it, and really enjoy it. So it's definitely keep up with what he's doing. Encourage y'all keep up what he's doing, and give him a lot of support and show us some love out there. So that's it for now, though. I'm gonna wrap this up. See if Vegas can do this comeback here with KC, and that's it for this week. Be back next. Actually, because it's a Sunday night game. Next week we'll probably be on before the game, but not after it. So I'll just do the Sunday night special before the game, and leave the rest of the night for y'all to observe the Bears and hopefully not wallow in any bad efforts against the Packers on Sunday night. Is always a possibility, but hopefully the Bears will show some guts about them next week, and show some heart. And go out and get a much needed win. So that's it for now. Keep up with us this week. WeAreRadio.com. War on Anchor. Got some another Chicago Sports Exchange going to be should be out tomorrow. Written by my man Drew Stevens. More basketball coverage. War running with War. New episode of In the Building. We're going to stream that live on Tuesday with a special guest there. I'm not going to announce it yet, but we should have a nice guest for that week, for that episode. And also go get into some college basketball this week, I believe. Have a special guest for that as well. TBA, I should say, to be announced. Yeah, that's it, man, for now. And yeah, keep checking for us. Rate us, share us with your friends and loved ones who you like to talk sports and entertain them with. And that's it for now. Kyle Means checking out. And have a good week, y'all. Stay safe out there and enjoy. Have a good holidays. Well, enjoy your Thanksgiving. All right. Peace.